Ladies and gentlemen, mark this date. Circle it in red. Burn it into your memory. Tuesday, March 17th, 2026. Because what is unfolding right now at the Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens is not merely a tennis tournament. It is a full-scale earthquake rattling the very foundations of professional women's tennis. And the establishment is scrambling, stumbling over itself, desperately trying to keep pace with a phenomenon it never saw coming and still does not fully comprehend. Let me draw you a picture. The Miami Open, one of the most prestigious events on the entire WTA calendar, a jewel of the Sunshine Double, has just achieved something it has never accomplished in its entire history. It has sold out completely. Every last ticket gone, swept up by fans who moved faster than the servers could handle. The box office is shuttered because there is simply nothing remaining to sell. And here is where things become interesting, where they become deeply unsettling for the people who govern the sport, for the power brokers and the scheduling committees and the marketing executives. The reason for this unprecedented, record-obliterating demand is not the world number one. It is not the defending champion. It is not the Grand Slam veterans who have spent a decade collecting trophies and endorsement portfolios. The reason every seat in that stadium complex is spoken for is a 20-year-old left-hander from Quezon City, Philippines. Her name is Alex Eala, and as of Monday, March 16th, she climbed to a career-high ranking of world number 29. Let that settle. Let it breathe for a moment. Let it challenge everything you believed you understood about how professional tennis functions. A player seated 31st is the primary engine driving ticket sales at a WTA 1000 event. The tournament's official website did not slow down. It did not stutter. It collapsed entirely under the weight of millions of fans from the Philippines and around the world frantically trying to secure their place inside that arena. They were not hunting for seats to watch top seeds warm up. They were not refreshing pages for a glimpse of defending champions. They were searching for seats to witness what they are already calling the Eala coronation. And the people in charge were not prepared. They are still not prepared. They are desperately searching for answers to a problem they never once anticipated. A player outside the top 20 commanding more attention, more passion, more raw gravitational pull than athletes who have been household names for years, who have graced magazine covers, who carry seven-figure sponsorship deals. This is the Eala effect, and it is rewriting the rulebook of professional tennis in real time, whether the establishment welcomes it or not. We need to discuss how we arrived here because this moment did not materialize from nothing. It did not appear fully formed like some sporting miracle. Just 24 hours before the Miami draw was released, the official WTA rankings dropped, and the tennis world collectively lost its composure. Alex Eala, at 20 years old, cracked the top 30 for the first time in her professional career. World number 29. She did not politely knock on the door of elite tennis and wait for someone to answer. She broke it down. She announced her presence with the subtlety of a thunderclap. This ascent was powered by her run at Indian Wells, where she reached the round of 16 in dominant, commanding fashion. And if you were paying attention, if your eyes were fixed on the courts that mattered, you already know what unfolded there. She faced world number 4 Coco Gauff, one of the most heavily promoted young stars in American tennis, a player groomed for greatness since childhood. And she made her retire from the match. Gauff could not manage what Eala was delivering. The relentless pressure was too suffocating. The angles were too precise. The sheer iron will, the absolute refusal to surrender a single point, was simply too overwhelming. That result sent shockwaves through the tennis establishment. It was not a fluke. It was not a fortunate afternoon. It was confirmation of what the fans had already known, what the Pine Army had been proclaiming for months. Alex Eala is not a feel-good narrative or a wild-card anomaly or a flash-in-the-pan moment. She is a legitimate, undeniable, genuinely terrifying threat to the established order. Now, here is where the business dimension of the story becomes simultaneously fascinating and frankly embarrassing for tournament organizers who should have anticipated all of it. The secondary ticket market for Alex's matches is operating at what can only be described as stratospheric levels. Prices that would give investment bankers pause. Numbers that would make corporate executives wince. Meanwhile, and this is the detail keeping WTA brass wide awake at night, courts featuring top 10 players are struggling to fill even half their seats. Read that again. Top 10 players. Half-empty stadiums. A 31st seed drawing standing room-only crowds, with lines stretching more than 100 meters, winding through the concourses just as they did in Hong Kong, just as they did in Melbourne, but larger. Always larger with Alex Eala. The phenomenon expands with every tournament, every match, every forehand winner that kisses the line. Tournament directors are reportedly in crisis mode trying to figure out how to manage the crowds. They did not anticipate that a young woman from the Philippines would outdraw every other name on the marquee. They did not architect their marketing strategy around her. They did not allocate security resources expecting her to be the central attraction. And now they are chasing the situation, issuing urgent memos while the Pine Army, her fiercely devoted fanbase backed by 110 million Filipinos, transforms Hard Rock Stadium into what is effectively a Philippine home court planted on American soil. But here is the uncomfortable reality that the establishment avoids acknowledging publicly, that they murmur about in private meetings and text chains. This magnitude of attention creates friction. Real friction. The kind that simmers in locker rooms and detonates in hushed complaints behind closed doors. The kind that curdles into resentment when the cameras stop rolling. Reports are surfacing that several top 10 players are openly displeased with what they are calling Eala mania. They observe the practice schedules and notice the prime-time court assignments. They see a player ranked 31st receiving more media attention, bigger crowds, and louder ovations than defending champions who have surrendered years of their lives to reach their positions. And it is eating them alive. When Alex Eala practices, the entire atmosphere of the complex shifts. The Pine Army builds a wall of sound that echoes through every court, every corridor, every corner of that facility. Other players cannot tune it out. They cannot escape it. It pursues them. It is a constant, inescapable reminder that the gravitational center of this tournament has moved, and it has moved toward a 20-year-old they were not prepared to take seriously, whose name they probably could not spell 2 years ago. Aryna Sabalenka has noticed. Coco Gauff has noticed. Every single player in that draw has noticed. The seismic realignment of fan devotion is impossible to deny. And for players who have invested years constructing their brands and cultivating their audiences through relentless interviews and social. Alex Eala, then a relative unknown on the grand stage, a name that commentators stumbled over, faced Swiatek, at that time the world number 2, the commanding force in women's tennis, and dismantled her in straight sets. Dismantled. That is not hyperbole. That is not dramatic embellishment. That is precisely, accurately what happened. Swiatek, the multiple Grand Slam champion, the player everyone expected to coast toward another title, was taken apart methodically by a left-hander who refused to be intimidated by reputation or ranking. Reports indicate that Swiatek has been training with laser-sharp focus on neutralizing Alex's angles. She has been studying footage. She has been working with her coaching team on tactical patterns designed specifically to dismantle what Alex does best. She has not moved past that defeat. She cannot move past it. It haunts her on these courts. The shadow of that straight sets loss lingers through every practice session. And the prospect of a rematch in the third round has both camps operating at championship-level alertness, preparing as though this is a title match rather than an early round encounter. There are whispers, and I want to tread carefully here because whispers are not verified facts, and I am not in the business of manufacturing drama. But there are whispers that some veterans are quietly hoping Alex crumbles beneath the weight of expectation. They are pointing to the 390 ranking points she is defending from her semi-final run last year. They're doing the arithmetic, calculating that if she stumbles early, if the pressure overwhelms her, she will suffer a dramatic ranking collapse from the top 30 back into the 60s. That would strip her of seeding privileges. That would force her back through qualifiers, back to the secondary courts, back toward the edges of relevance. But what these veterans appear not to grasp, what they fundamentally fail to understand, is that Alex Eala is not competing for points. She is playing for something far greater. She is playing for a top 20 mission that extends beyond any individual tournament. Let me tell you about the weapon she has built for this campaign. the transformation that has the entire tour on alert. Just weeks before the 2026 season launched, Alex Eala shared a court with Rafael Nadal himself at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca. The King of Clay, the 22-time Grand Slam champion, one of the most formidable competitors in the history of sport, worked with her directly. He provided technical guidance on her forehand. He spoke to her about mental resilience, about embracing suffering, about locating strength in the moments when every muscle in your body begs you to stop. He told her that reaching the top 20 requires first dismantling her own physical boundaries. Since that session, her training under coach Joan Bosch and the Academy's elite staff has been nothing short of brutal. 5-hour sessions beneath the unforgiving Spanish sun. Grueling endurance work engineered specifically for the thick humidity and crushing heat of Miami Gardens. She's been meeting the ball earlier, redirecting pace with surgical accuracy, converting defense into offense in fractions of a second. This is the same tactical ferocity that forced Coco Gauff to retire at Indian Wells. This is the same physical dominance that allowed her to outlast world number 8 Jasmine Paolini in Dubai in a contest that tested every limit of her conditioning. Her fitness is now being described as the most dangerous outside the top 10. While other players are grumbling about the heavy air and the sluggish courts, lamenting conditions in their post-match interviews, Alex Eala was constructed to flourish in 3-hour battles. She trained in Florida-like conditions back in Spain precisely to ensure her body would not break down when the pressure was greatest, that she would be the one still upright when the third set stretched past the 2-hour mark. She told her 2 million social media followers something that should send a chill through every opponent in her section of the draw. I am trying to find my limits and go past them. That is not a line for a motivational poster. That is not something you print on merchandise. That is a statement of intent. That is a declaration of war. That is a threat. Now, let us examine the financial dimension of this story, because the stakes extend far beyond athletics. They are economic on a scale the tennis world has rarely seen concentrated in a single player outside the top 10. The energy surrounding Alex has reached levels that intersect with billionaire-tier interest. Reports have circulated about Bill Gates himself offering counsel related to her Global Academy initiative, taking meetings about her long-term brand development. Whether that evolves into something concrete remains to be seen. But the point stands. Every winner she strikes in Miami is not simply worth ranking points. It is worth enormous financial leverage. It is worth endorsement power. It is worth global brand equity. If she defends her semifinal position from last year, or better yet advances to the final, she will not merely break into the top 20. She will potentially shatter records for the highest-paid Asian athlete of 2026. This is why the tickets evaporated. The world is not simply watching tennis. The world is watching a young woman transform herself into a sovereign economic force within her sport, one that transcends the game entirely. But here is the brutal arithmetic that makes this week so decisive, that layers pressure upon pressure upon pressure. The WTA operates on a 52-week rolling ranking system. Those 390 points Alex accumulated from her 2025 semifinal run are about to fall off the ledger. They are expiring. If she loses early, if she falters in the opening rounds, the ranking damage will be catastrophic. A freefall that could drop her from world number 29 into the 60s, erasing months of hard-earned progress in a single afternoon. Everything she has constructed over the past year rests on what happens this week. She enters with a first round bye thanks to her 31st seeding, guaranteeing 10 points and a place in the round of 64. But from that point, the gauntlet begins without delay. She faces the winner of Laura Siegemund and Petra Martic. These are seasoned veterans who have seen everything, who understand precisely how to play the role of spoiler, who would relish nothing more than ending the Eala phenomenon before it reaches that potential third-round collision. The pressure, when you stack it all together, becomes almost incomprehensible. 110 million people watching from the Philippines and from the diaspora spread across the globe. 390 critical ranking points on the line. A potential billionaire-level future hanging in the balance. A possible rematch with the players she humiliated on this very surface. All of it compressed into 1 week at Hard Rock Stadium beneath lights that will feel more intense than ever before. But when asked about the pressure, Alex offered a response that reveals precisely why she is.